There's a canteen sitting by my boot right now, and it's bone dry. Been dry since a little after noon. The sun's dropping behind the ridge, and the rock's still throwing back the heat of the whole day, like an oven somebody forgot to shut off. My lips are cracked. My tongue feels too big for my mouth. And I want you to understand something before I say another word. I'm fine. I've got water cached a mile back, and I know exactly where it is. But I let myself go dry on purpose today because I wanted to feel the front edge of the thing I'm about to tell you about. Just the front edge. Because the front edge is the only part most folks ever survive to describe. Here's the thing that ought to stop you cold. The water in that dry country, the thing everybody says they die without, the thing you'd think a man dies from the lack of, has killed more people out in that open ground than the heat ever did on its own. I know how backward that sounds. A man dies of thirst. Everybody knows that. But that's not the whole truth. And the part they leave out is the part that puts men in the dirt. Because it isn't the running out of water that kills you first. It's what your own body and your own head do in the days before you run out. It's the decisions. The water, or the want of it, is just the country loading the gun. You pull the trigger yourself, and you do it early, and you do it certain you're doing the smart thing. Stay with me, because I'm going to walk you through the whole 6 days, not as a scare story, as a map. 6 days is about what you get out there in the dry country in the killing season, if you start with a little water and no plan and the ordinary amount of bad luck. Some men get less, a few tough ones get more. But 6 days is the honest middle of it. And by the end of this, you're going to know exactly which day kills most of them. And it is not the day you'd guess. It's not the last one. Most men who die out there are already as good as dead by the second afternoon. And they walk themselves there on 2 strong legs, feeling clever the whole time. Let me tell you who I am first, so you know I'm not reading this off a card. I've guided in country where the map has more blank than ink on it. I've packed men out who went in soft and came out on a travois. And I've sat with the families of 1 or 2 who didn't come out at all. I've gone dry on purpose more than once, controlled, watched, to learn the stages in my own body instead of a book. And I learned this from men who learned it the hard way, from desert people and old cattlemen, and a couple of bordermen who'd found more than one traveler face down a half-mile from shade he never saw. The first thing every one of them told me was the same. The desert doesn't kill you with thirst. It kills you with confidence. And the confidence starts on day 1, when you feel just fine. I want to plant something in your head right now, and I'm not going to explain it until near the end. So carry it with you. Here's the riddle. Out there, a wet man dies of thirst. A man with water still in his pack, water still sloshing, water he could reach out and drink this very minute, lies down and dies with the desert. And it happens more than the dry ones dying, the wet man dying of thirst. Hold that. It's the whole spine of this thing, and it won't make sense yet, and it isn't supposed to. Now let's start the clock. Day 1. You're where you shouldn't be. Doesn't matter how. Truck broke down, took a wrong fork on a 2-track, went for a day hike and the trail petered out into 100 trails that all look the same. You've got maybe a liter of water, half a liter, whatever was left in the bottle. And here's the first thing that's true and that nobody feels. On day 1, you are not in trouble yet. Your body is fine. You could walk out of most situations on day 1 if you did the right things. But day 1 is exactly when you make the decision that kills you. Because on day 1, you still feel strong, and a strong man wants to move. He wants to fix it. He wants to walk to the road, walk to the ridge, walk to where he thinks the water is. And walking, in the heat, in the dry, is the single fastest way to spend the one thing you cannot buy back. So here's the first layer of the fix, and it's going to flip your whole head around, same as everything else I'm going to tell you. The thing you think is the emergency is not the emergency. You think the emergency is finding water. It isn't. On day 1, the emergency is keeping the water you already have inside your body instead of letting it steam out of your skin. Every ounce of sweat is water you're spending, and out there, you're spending it faster than you'll ever replace it. The man who sits still in shade in the heat of the day and walks only in the cool dark, that man might live a week on what he's got. The man who charges off across the open ground at high noon, feeling strong, is dead by day 3, and he'll spend day 1 and day 2 feeling like the smartest man in the desert. Movement in the heat is the lie. Stillness feels like giving up. Stillness feels like doing nothing while you die. And stillness is the thing that keeps you alive. That's the whole trap right there, laid out plain. It feels wrong to do the thing that saves you, and it feels right to do the thing that kills you. Let me show you what's actually happening inside a man on day 1. Because once you see it, you'll never trust that strong feeling again. When you start to go short on water, your body doesn't warn you the way you'd expect. Thirst, real gut-clawing thirst, kicks in a lot later than the damage does. By the time your mouth is truly dry and your throat is sticking, you're already down a couple percent of your body's water. And a couple percent is enough to knock the edge off your thinking. Not enough to feel drunk, just enough to make you a hair more certain, a hair less careful, a hair more likely to decide that yes, the water's definitely over that next ridge. Definitely. And to start walking toward it. Your judgment goes before your legs do. That's the cruelty of it. The tool you need most to get yourself out, your own good sense, is the very first tool the desert takes off you. And it takes it so gently, you never feel it leave. Now here's who knew this and who died of it, because the pattern's the same as it always is. The people who lived in the dry country for 1,000 years, the desert people, they didn't fight the heat. They surrendered to it and worked around it. They moved at dawn and at dusk and in the dark. They lay up in the shade through the killing hours, still as lizards, doing nothing, spending nothing. They knew where every seep and every tank and every plant that held water was. Not because they were clever in the moment, but because they'd carried that map in their heads since they were children. They ate the water-fat plants. They dug in the dry washes at the outside of the bends where the water hides under the sand. They didn't beat the desert. They agreed with it, and they walked home. The ones who died were the ones who came in from the wet country and brought their wet country habits with them. Men who figured they could just push through, the way you push through a hard day back home. Men who trusted their legs and their will and their watch and figured effort would carry them, because effort carries you everywhere else. Out there, effort is the poison. Every bit of will a wet country man throws at the desert, he's throwing at it in the form of sweat. And the desert takes that sweat and gives him nothing back. They copied the crossing. They saw the desert people move through that country and figured they could too. What they didn't copy was the knowing underneath it. The when and the where and the how slow. And that missing piece is the whole difference between a man who's out for a hard couple of days and a man who's a set of bones in a wash come spring. So sit with day 1, because day 1 is the day almost everybody loses. Not the last day, the first one. The desert gives you one good decision to make while you still have the wits to make it, and it disguises that decision so it looks like cowardice. Sit down. Wait for dark. Don't spend what you can't replace. The man who can do that boring, patient, terrifying nothing on day 1 is the man who might see day 7. And most men, strong men, good men, men who'd never quit at anything, they cannot do it. They get up and they walk. And the walking is the dying, dressed up as trying. Day 2 now. And on day 2 you feel it start, the mouth going tacky, the headache setting in behind the eyes like a thumb pressing slow. And here's where the second layer comes in, the part almost everybody throws away without ever knowing they had it. On day 2, your body is quietly telling you things. And the modern man has been trained his whole life to ignore exactly those signals or to fix them with the wrong thing. Your body is pulling water out of every place it can spare to keep your blood wet enough to run. It's pulling it out of your skin, which is why you stop sweating right and your skin goes loose and doughy. It's pulling it out of your spit, out of your eyes, out of every soft tissue that isn't strictly keeping you alive minute to minute. And the discarded thing, the thing modern people have thrown clean away, is the ability to read their own body honestly. We've spent our whole lives outsourcing that. Thirsty? Drink. Tired? Push through with a caffeine. Hot? Turn on the machine. We've thrown away the old fluency a person used to have with their own flesh. The ability to look at their own hand and read how far gone they are. To pinch the skin and watch how slow it settles back. To look at their own water and know from the color exactly how much trouble they're in and how many hours of good decisions they've got left. That reading of yourself, that's the discarded layer. It's free. It costs nothing. And almost nobody carries it anymore, because for our whole soft lives, we never once needed it. I'll hand you a piece of it right now. Your body will tell you where you stand, if you know how to ask. Pinch the back of your hand and let go. If the skin snaps back flat, you're all right. If it sits up in a little ridge and sinks back slow like putty, you're already in the country of real trouble, and you'd better be making nothing but perfect decisions from here on. Look at your urine, plainly and without squeamishness, because that stream is the most honest gauge you own out there. Pale and plenty, you're fine. Dark and little, you're rationing water inside your own body already, whether you meant to or not, and the clock's running faster than you think. That's not delicate talk, but the desert isn't delicate, and a man who's too proud to read his own body will die with the answer right there in front of him. Day 2 afternoon is when the wet man does his worst, because on day 2 he still has a little water in his bottle, and here's the thing that kills more men than the empty bottle ever did. He rations it. He looks at that half a liter and he thinks, I've got to make this last. I don't know how long I'll be out here. I'd better save it. So he takes tiny sips. He wets his lips. He tells himself he's being disciplined. He's being smart. And he lies down that night with water still in the bottle, proud of his restraint. And that restraint is what kills him. Now stay with me, because this is the hinge of the whole thing, and it runs dead against everything that feels sensible. That water in the bottle does you exactly no good sitting in the bottle. None. Water in a bottle in the desert is not water. It's plastic and false hope. The only water that keeps you alive is the water that's inside your body, in your blood, in your tissues, doing the work. And when you ration, when you hold that water back in the bottle to save it for later, you are choosing to let your body run dry now to protect a supply you might never live to drink. The desert doesn't wait for you to feel ready to drink it. The damage happens on its schedule, not yours. Every hour you spend a little dehydrated to save water for later is an hour of your judgment getting worse, your body getting weaker, your margin getting thinner. All to protect a mouthful of water in a bottle that will still be sitting there half full when they find you. The third layer is the one that feels like cheating once you understand it, and here it is. When you have water, you drink it. You put it inside you where it can work, where it can keep your blood thin and your head clear and your legs under you. The old desert hands had a saying, and it sounds insane until you understand it. The best place to store water is in your belly. Not in the canteen, in you. Because water in you is water working, keeping your mind sharp enough to make the decisions that actually get you home. And a sharp mind will find more water. A dehydrated fool sitting on a full bottle will not. Drink the water. Drink it when you have it. Then use the clear head it buys you to solve the real problem. That's the trick that feels like breaking the rules, because your whole gut screams, save it, ration it, make it last. And the truth is the opposite. The water does its saving inside you. And the fourth layer is the one that sounds like pure madness, the one nobody sees coming, and it's the same shape as every deepest desert rule. Do less. When it's hot and you're short of water, do nothing. Less walking, less working, less trying, less of the very thing every fiber of you is begging to do. The starving man wants to eat and it kills him, and the stranded man in the heat wants to move and act and fix. And that wanting is the thing that kills him quickest of all. The man who does the least lives the longest. Lie in your shade. Move slow when you must move. Don't dig frantically. Don't hike heroically. Don't do anything at all in the heat of the day, but breathe slow and wait for the dark. Everything in you will call that quitting. It isn't quitting. It's the single hardest and smartest thing a person can do out there, and almost nobody can make themselves do it. Because doing less feels like dying, while doing more feels like living. And out in the dry country, it's exactly the other way around. Now let me take you into the deep of it, because the days I've given you so far are the days a man can still think his way through. And I promised you the whole 6, and the back half is where the riddle finally opens up. Keep it in your mind, that wet man dying of thirst, because we're walking straight toward the answer now. Day 3. By day 3, the man who walked in the heat is in real country now. And here's the thing that ought to frighten you more than the thirst itself. He feels, for a stretch of it, better. Not good, but the headache eases some. The desperate scrabbling thirst backs off a little, and a dangerous calm settles over him. That calm is not recovery. That calm is your brain going short on water and losing the ability to sound its own alarm. This is the stage the old hands feared more than any other, because this is where a man stops trying to save himself. He's been down 2, 3, 4% of his body's water, then 5, then 6, and somewhere in there, the mind starts to drift. Not fall down drunk, drift. He forgets why he was walking. He sets down his pack to rest and walks off without it. He takes off his hat because he feels flushed, takes off his shirt, and now the sun's on bare skin, pulling the last of his water out through the burn. Men in this stage have been found stripped half naked, their clothes scattered behind them for a mile, because a mind gone short on water feels hot and confused and does the exact wrong thing with a terrible, calm certainty. That's not weakness. That's the machinery of your own brain failing in a specific and predictable way. And it fails without ever telling you it's failing. That's the horror of it. You don't get to watch yourself go. You just go. Day 4. Now the body's in open revolt. The blood's gone thick, thick as syrup, and the heart's laboring to push it. The kidneys have all but shut down to hold on to every drop. The tongue's swelled and cracked, the skin's gone gray and slack, the eyes sunk back, and the mind is mostly gone now for most men, off in a country of its own. This is the stage of the desert stories that sound made up and aren't. Men seeing water that isn't there and walking toward it and away from the water that is. Men talking to people who died years back. Men digging holes in the sand with their hands for no reason they could tell you. Men so far gone they walk right past the road, right past a ranch fence, right past the very shade or seep that would have saved them, because there's no one left inside to see it. The lights are on, and nobody's home to read the sign. Day 5 and 6 run together for most, and I won't dress them up. The body's been feeding on itself to keep the core alive. The heart's straining against blood turned to sludge, and it ends, usually, quiet. Not the thrashing death folks picture, a lying down, a stopping. Often in the open, often within sight of something that could have saved them, often, and here's the part that comes back around to the riddle, with water still in the pack. Now, the riddle. How does a wet man die of thirst? Here's the whole answer, and once you see it, everything I've told you locks into one piece. The man dies with water in his pack because By the time his body was screaming loudest for it, his mind was already too far gone to drink it. He rationed on day 2 when he was clear-headed, holding the water back for a later that was coming, saving it, being smart. And by the time later came, by the time his body truly needed that water poured into it, the water shortage had already climbed up into his brain and switched off the very part of him that could have unscrewed the cap. He had the cure in his hand and no mind left to use it. That's the wet man dying of thirst. He didn't die because he ran out of water. He died because he saved it past the point where he could still think to drink it. The water outlived the mind. The bottle was fuller than the man. And that's why the ration is the killer and the drink is the salvation. Why storing water in your belly beats storing it in the canteen every single time. Because your body's water and your mind's clarity fail together, hand in hand. And the moment you can no longer think is the moment you can no longer save yourself, no matter what's left in the pack. The water you didn't drink on day 2 is the water your dead hand is resting on come day 6. Now here's the proof that I'm not spinning you a campfire yarn, because this one's written down about as plain as these things ever get. The United States Army studied exactly this back in the desert training of the last war. Men and physiologists out in the California desert measuring what heat and short water do to a soldier hour by hour. And what they wrote down went dead against common sense and against how every army had done it before. They'd always told men to ration water, to discipline themselves, to sip and save and tough it out. And the desert study proved that ration discipline was getting men killed. A man named Edward Adolph led that work, and his findings came down to a rule so simple it sounds like nothing. Drink the water when you have it. Don't ration it against your thirst. There is no advantage, none, in arriving dehydrated with water still in your canteen. And there is every disadvantage because the dehydration wrecks your body and your judgment while the water sits there doing nobody any good. The Army rewrote its doctrine on the strength of it. When the government studies its own soldiers dying in the sand and comes back and tells you to drink the water instead of saving it, you can take that one straight to the bank. So why doesn't everybody know this? Same reason as always, and it's got nothing to do with any conspiracy. It's convenience and it's money. A person only keeps the wisdom they need, and almost nobody living now has ever been more than a few hours from a tap. The knowing faded because the need faded, and then it got worse because the modern world took the old truth and sold you its opposite. Now, the whole trade is built on the idea that you're always one sip from disaster, always dehydrated, always needing to buy more water, sip constantly, carry the fancy bottle, drink, drink, drink at all times. Because there's money in convincing a comfortable person they're perpetually parched. And that constant fussing sipping trains you into the exact wrong habit for the one day it matters. The habit of treating water as something to manage and monitor and dole out in careful little amounts, when the desert lesson is the plain opposite. When you've got it, put it in you. When you haven't, do nothing and wait for the dark. There's no dollar in teaching a man to sit still in the shade and drink deep when he can, so nobody sells it, and the wisdom got crowded out because there was never a nickel in keeping it around. Let me be straight with you now, the way I'd want it straight to me. This isn't coming for most of you. You've got a phone and a road and a tap, and you're not going to lie down in the sand this summer. To actually die this way, you'd have to be truly stranded, truly alone, truly out past help in the killing heat. The way a broke-down traveler or a lost hiker ends up, not the way you're sitting comfortable right now. I won't tell you it's hunting you. What I will tell you is that every man it ever took thought that same thing, felt strong and clear and certain right up to the hour it had him. And it had most of them on day 1. in the shade of a good decision they were too strong to make. So here's how you carry it. Not as fear, but as a plain way of being. Heat is the enemy, not thirst. So you hide from the heat and you move in the cool dark. You read your own body honestly, the skin and the water and the color of it, and you believe what it tells you before your pride can argue. When you have water, you drink it. You put it in you where it works. You never ration it against a later that may never come. And you do less, always less in the hard hours. Because the man who spends nothing is the man who walks out. None of it costs a dime. The whole of it is just knowing, and the willingness to do the quiet, frightening nothing when everything in you screams to act. Maybe that's the real lesson, the one bigger than the desert. Those men didn't die because the country was cruel. The country was only ever just the country. They died because they were certain. Certain that moving was trying and stillness was quitting. Certain that saving the water was smart. Certain their own strong legs and clear head would carry them the way those things carry a man everywhere else. The desert never kills the humble man half as fast as it kills the sure one, and the old hands feared their own certainty more than they ever feared the sun. So tell me down in the comments, if your own family, your parents or your grandparents, were dropped out there tomorrow with a half a bottle of water and no road in sight, which one of them sits down in the shade and waits for dark? And which one gets up strong and walks off to fix it and dies? You know the answer for each of them. Tell me who in your family the desert would take first and why. Next time I'll hand you another one from the same hard country, and it'll turn your stomach and your common sense clean over. It's about food out there, and it runs like this. In the desert, the man who finds food and eats it can die faster than the man who finds nothing and stays hungry. And the emptier your belly, the safer that first meal is to skip. I'll show you exactly why and what the old hands ate first instead when they had the choice. Until then, take care of your fire. And out in the dry country, remember, the water that saves you is the water inside you, never the water you were too smart to drink.